Hello friends, today I want to tell you the story of my stem cell collection. I am taking it back to December 2016. I had just gone through 10 rounds of radiation and 6 rounds of R-epoch chemotherapy to treat my double-hit lymphoma. The final part of my treatment plan my doctors had in store for me was an autologous stem cell transplant. And the first part of this process was the collection of my own stem cells. I explained in a previous video that I was super scared to go through this procedure, and I had a few reasons why. Number one, I read that the chemotherapy used for the procedure is extremely powerful, which I already called my regular chemo the epitome of human suffering during my detoxes, so I really couldn't imagine anything worse. And number two, they told me I would have to get a special catheter put into my neck to collect the cells because they couldn't do it from my power port. They also told me I would be awake for this procedure to put this catheter into my neck. I wouldn't be asleep like when they installed my power port. I was just beyond over all this pain and suffering. My oncologist did chill me out on the whole chemo front though. She said, "Oh honey, the chemo you've already been getting is super bad. The stuff you're gonna get before your transplant will be a piece of cake." Okay, fair enough. But there was still this intense fear of this Shiley catheter I had to get put into my neck. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I decided to go to an alien planet. Interpret this however you want, but I don't know who could potentially stumble across these videos, and I don't want to give any jailbait some potentially bad ideas. Quick disclaimer, I'm just an idiot patient. No doctor gave me the green light to do this, and I could have hurt myself or worse. So I'm just putting that out there. And I really don't care if anyone thinks my analogy is stupid. There's enough I don't care in this world, and I'm one of those people who actually do care. Sorry. I warned you. So a few hours before this procedure, I enter the spaceship, and I'm waiting to take off. So my mom, aunt, and I are at the hospital. We're waiting, and all of a sudden, I'm next for the procedure room. My anxiety and my adrenaline were eating holes in my brain, and I panic. So I upgraded my ticket to the other planet from coach to first class, if you know what I mean. So, you know, I'd get there faster. They lay me down on the table, and I'm waiting for the surgeon to come in. And it ain't working. We're still delayed. The two-headed flight attendant is giving us waters for the inconvenience. The surgeon comes in. I'm totally fine, but I'm panicking on the inside. He gives me a shot of anesthetic in my neck, which hurt, I guess, but it was tolerable. And maybe he didn't give me enough, I don't know, but I felt this pain, and I felt it in my collarbone. And it felt like they were digging at it. But in my mind, they're inside my body with this little tube, so the hard part was over, right? Wrong. Suddenly, they say, "Sorry, miss, we put it in the wrong spot. We have to start over." Okay, another poke and burn. They did it correct this time. And to this day, I still have a big chunk missing, and it's right in my collarbone, and every time I look at it, I'm just like, how did they think that would work? But I digress. But my plan totally failed. I felt everything. When I was getting wheeled back into the waiting room, where my mom and aunt were, that's when I was informed we're ready for takeoff. The next part of this procedure was getting me and this newly placed catheter hooked up to this machine. What does this machine do? It sucks out your blood, separates the stem cells from all the other cells. The stem cells get collected separately, and it pumps the rest of the blood back into the body. I have zero memory of being hooked up to this machine. My memory from here on out is hazy, to say the least. I'm on this alien planet having fun, and the Earth is like Instagram. I open it up and look at it from time to time. My mom and aunt said I was hooked up to this machine for hours. My aunt, being the absolute angel that she is, decided that if I have to go through this, that she was going to donate blood. So she and I were both hooked up. Again, hazy memory, but what I do remember were the Oreos. In my haze, the lady in charge of this stem cell collection room put a plate of snacks in front of me. I saw this glorious bag of Oreos, and I took them. In fact, I dubbed my newfound planet Oreo Land. Meanwhile on Earth, we had nearly closed the damn place, trying to get all the stem cells I needed for my transplant. Because if you don't get enough cells in one sitting, you have to go back the next day and potentially even the next day. until you get enough. Everyone is different. Usually the younger you are, the more you produce at one time, and the least amount of times you have to go back to collect more. In fact, before my procedure, I was talking to this 60-year-old man that had to go in 5 times to collect the amount of stem cells he needed for his transplant. Woof. So I was lucky enough to only have to go in 1 day. So I'm sitting there eating Oreos while my good Samaritan aunt is also hooked up to a machine right next to me. We were both having our blood sucked out, but she wasn't getting hers back, obviously. After a while, she's done. She says, "I don't feel so good." She gets up, but she goes down. She passes out, and the nurses are rushing over to help her. My mom's rushing over to help her, and they're fanning her and they're checking her pulse. Now, I remember physically seeing this go down. I was kind of sitting up, I was physically looking at her, but as we all know, I was on the alien planet. I remember my mom yelling at me, "Why don't you care about your aunt?" I think I knew that we were in a hospital and there was nothing I could really do because I'm stuck to this machine and my body couldn't literally get up and help her. But there was all these nurses and doctors there and she was gonna be fine. So I just sat there in my limp, paralyzed universe, eating my precious Oreos. I love you, Oreos. I love you so much. Some time goes by. My aunt is stabilized, but she's kind of ready to give in and join me on this alien adventure. My mom was wheeling me to inpatient chemo because they need to test my blood. Now, it's most likely nighttime at this point. I don't know. The planet I was on was in a different time zone where there is no concept of time whatsoever. They sit me in the chemo chair. I can barely sit up straight. My aunt is in bad shape. She's puking. She's laying down in the chair. We probably just look like the biggest group of degenerates. One of my doctors actually comes in, looks at me, shakes her head in disapproval, and walks out. Now they test my blood, and they realize that my hemoglobin is low. I need a blood transfusion. Now, what's that thing they give you before a blood transfusion? Benadryl. I was done. I was out. My stay in this alien planet was overnight guaranteed. From here on out, I don't remember shit. But according to my mother and aunt, after the hour or so blood transfusion, they need to drive home, and it's late at night at this point. And they have an hour drive from the hospital to our house. I'm gone with a broken hip, so there's no way in hell I could even think about driving. My poor aunt passed out giving blood, and she's not feeling too good, so she's not gonna be able to drive. And my mother forgot her glasses, so she also cannot drive home. Just a wonderful day at the hospital. Oh yeah, and it was also so late at night that nobody could remove this catheter from my neck. So I had to go home with a hot dog in my neck. So we were 3 ladies stranded at the hospital. One of them was on an alien planet in a wheelchair with a hot dog in her neck. Don't ask me how we got home. I do not remember who ended up driving. But the next day, I wake up. We had to go back to the hospital, and I was groggy as hell. My mother is sitting at the breakfast table, and she confronts me. "Nick, why didn't you care about your aunt who was passed out?" And I was just like, "What? She was passed out?" "Yes, Nick, she passed out giving blood right next to you. You were looking at her." "Oh yeah, faint memories. It's all coming back to me now." I look at my phone. There's a bunch of selfies on there I don't remember taking, but I do remember the Oreos. My grandmother's laughing. My mom is genuinely curious. I'm shaking my head like, "Mom, do I even really have to explain to you I was partying with aliens?" We awkwardly drive back to the hospital, and they confirm that I do in fact have enough stem cells for my transplant collected. So they can take this hot dog, this Shiley catheter out of my neck. Which, ow, okay? I almost punched the chick who removed it in the face because it felt like she stabbed me with a pencil. Ugh. But the hard part was in fact over. I did make it more hard on myself, but we live and learn, am I right? Point of this video? Really just recalling my stem cell collection, reassuring others that it does suck, but you don't need to put yourself in a potentially dangerous situation because you're scared of whatever pain you're gonna experience. I could have died in a meteor shower. I could have been abducted by aliens. You just never know. I ended up feeling all the pain. That was no big deal anyway. And although it is a very entertaining moment of my life, was it worth it? Probably not. Sorry for the analogy, But you can never be too careful online, right? I'm not trying to sacrifice my morals for the sake of some video that'll only get a few views anyway. The next one will be about my stem cell transplant. Until then, stay safe, stay humble. Na zdrowie. Have a great day. Watch out for aliens. Bye!